Boys and girls, it's a ton of Kate Bush stuff to give away. This fabulous video could be yours, or one that's just like it. And this CD, it could be yours, or one just like it. Here's what you do. You just saw it. The Kate Bush, the story so far, the special coming up very shortly with Lori Brown. A matter of hours, as a matter of fact. Just watch it, pay attention to it. Kate's going to answer a lot of questions that Lori berated her with. And then at the end of the special, we're going to ask you a question which Kate Bush answered during the special. Write it down, pay attention, we'll give you an address, the whole bit, once the Kate Bush special is finished. And if you mail in too much music and you're correct, we're going to send you something like this and something like that and a poster that goes with it. Got it? Good. Unfortunately...
The following is a Much Music special presentation.
What happens when you have a 4-octave range voice, pre-Raphaelite Anglo-Irish looks, incredible ability to compose at keyboards, and a career in the British and North American charts over the last decade with what, 17 hit singles since the age of 17, a background in dance, and a working knowledge of literature and drama? Well, it seems you have all the ingredients for a classic British art rocker. You also have Kate Bush. To England to talk with Kate Bush. We'll show you that interview, as well as some older ones that were done with Christopher Ward and Daniel Richler. Kate has never performed live in concert in North America, and it's been 7 years since she's done that in England. She seems to be someone who prefers to view the world from behind her own garden wall. But lately she's been seen doing other people's projects. She sang live at the Palladium with David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, who produced her first album, and she also did a track and video with Peter Gabriel, a very compatible musical companion to Kate's own work.
Moved on to another town, tried hard to settle down. For every job, so many men, so many men, no one needs. Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up, you're not the only one.
Also, Kate appeared in the video of Let It Be, the Ferry Aid single, a UK charity record to raise money for the families of the victims of the British ferry disaster.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
All of this renewed activity in England would have Kate Bush fans hoping that this bodes well for some future live performances, especially here in North America.
I think a lot of people tend to assume I don't like doing live performances because it's been so long since the tour that we did. But it's really, my other commitments are just too involved. Since then, the albums have taken longer and longer progressively. And with videos and promotion that goes immediately after an album, I just haven't felt the time or the space to really get one together because it would take a long time to pull it together. But I would like to, yes, very much so, and I have really wanted to since the last one. But it just hasn't really been the time, but I'm hoping that it will feel right and that time will come again.
understand that you've built your own studio and you're working from that now.
Yes, and the difference that makes is phenomenal. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made, was to get that studio, because automatically I relaxed and could put the ideas straight onto tape, which, again, I just could not afford to do when working in the commercial studio. It's so expensive. You have to work out a lot before you go in, and then there's not time to experiment and change things as much as you like. Or if you do, the pressure of what it's costing, I think, actually becomes anti-productive.
I'm interested in how your songwriting process works. When you're trying to communicate with other musicians and tell them exactly what you want, do you give them the tape on cassette?
It very much depends on the musician. Some people would not want to come into the studio without having had a cassette that they could listen to and work some ideas out on. But normally what happens is the musician comes in, you play the track, which would have the basics on it. I'm sort of work backwards to most people in a lot of ways, in that the bass quite often goes on nearly as one of the last instruments. So the track they would hear would have drums, piano, voice, a few keyboards, even guitar sometimes. And quite often now we have a very good atmosphere going on the tape before the musician comes in. So although it might be very rough what's on there, it's a strong mood of what it will be like at the end. You know, it's got all the feelings in there. And it's just a matter of tarting it up.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose that atmosphere.
Yes, it's very difficult to recreate things like that. And that's what's so good for me about being able to write straight onto tape. You might get some really dodgy things, and quite often I do, but there might be just something in there that was so spontaneous. You probably wouldn't be able to do again in the same way, and it's there on tape.
You
released The Whole Story, which is both a home video album and a compilation record of all her biggest hits, and one new track, Experiment 4. She also re-recorded the vocals for Wuthering Heights.
I wanted to put a contemporary mark on it. I felt it sounded like a very little girl singing that to me, and the production was very much a 70s production. And although there were some other tracks on there that you could say the same thing of, they weren't as blatant as that one was. If I'd have had the time, I probably would have done the same to some of the other tracks, but there was just no time. There was too much to do with recording and writing Experiment 4 plus doing the video. It was a very, very intense period to get that out on the deadline.
Where do you think your main strength lies, in your family or your music?
I think that's a very difficult question because my family are very important to me and have been around since I was born, whereas my music is something that came much later. But there's such a personal involvement with my music that's very much inspired by people, but it's a very private thing and it's very much a release for me. I think I get a tremendous amount of support from my family, which is very important to me. And I don't know if music supports you. It's not necessarily a comforting thing, but it's like a very close friend, I guess.
I don't want to go. Oh, England, my lion heart, drop from my black sweet thighs tonight in March. Just give me one kiss, an apple blossom. Just give me one wish, and I'd be I don't want to go.
Kate Bush is an artist who discovered videos early on, and she made a lot of them. Some of them you're seeing here for the first time. You can tell she had plenty of input because they're just as complex and free-spirited as her music.
Okay, remember. Okay, remember that we have just allowed half an hour to get into it and get out. The sense of adventure is changing to danger. The signal has been given. I go in, the crime begins. My excitement turns into fate. Uh-oh, uh-oh, my lips, what am I gonna say?
that the two videos that you're most pleased with, the ones you like, are Running Up That Hill and Army Dreamers. What was it that you didn't feel you liked about the other ones?
I have a couple of favourites since that.
Oh, good.
But the main problem is that when you write a song, you write it as a song and not as something that's visual. So quite often there isn't a visual story contained in a song in the way that should be to actually put on film. Budgets are a particular problem. It costs a lot of money. And time, usually it's such a rush job to get it together. But more recently we've been trying to get them done as much up front as possible and spend more time, effort and money on them.
What are your new favourites?
I was quite pleased with Cloudbusting and Experiment 4, and particularly with them and Army Dreamers, there was very much a visual story that was adequate for film rather than it just being putting a song, you know, a song together. They very much had visual information in them that worked well on film.
Bush is a real innovator when it comes to creating textures in pop music. She achieves this through a layering process, taking 2 or 3 completely different types of sound to create a whole new sound, a process that became a lot easier since the advent of the Fairlight synthesizer, the first sampling machine.
Kate, as early as about 1980, you were experimenting with the Fairlight computer musical instrument. Has that changed the way you approach creating music?
Yes, very much so. I think it was one of the best things to happen for me alongside rhythm machines. Not only does it help with the initial writing process, where I'm getting associations of the sound straight away as I start writing the song, but also from an arrangement point of view, where if I want strings or brass on a track, I can work out an arrangement on the Fairlight with that particular sample sound, and then if I want, get the real musicians in to redo it.
Yeah. Well, your use of it's become more and more extensive, but you were, I think, one of the first artists that I ever knew, along with perhaps Peter Gabriel, who used the Fairlight at all.
I was very lucky in that I was at the studio where they decided to demonstrate the machine. At a very early stage, it had only been in the country for one, they were just setting up the company. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to have one. I mean, it was going to become a very important part of my work.
Of unlike things at kind of auxiliary, something you apply to your visual work as well as your music?
They are very similar processes, but they're not. You know, the way you approach them is completely different. With sound, for me, what I'm trying to create is very much the atmosphere, the mood of what the song has sort of designated. It does. It automatically creates its own personality in a way. Mm. And then it's a matter of treating that personality the way that it wants to. Quite often you think of things that would be nice to try on a track and you put them on and the track just won't accept it, it just won't work. So, you know, there are only certain things it will have. But visually it's more, it's not so much a layering process as the jigsaw, you know, putting it all together. It's not quite the same way of layering things up that you do in sound. Mm.
Sometimes all these different images almost look surreal. I'm thinking of the roller skaters in the white gowns and the dunce caps. Was that just a neat combination of things, or does it all add up to some point?
I think very much with that one, it was the combination. It was a kind of silly video, really, where we wanted it to be slightly comical, and it was playing with different images of knowledge, really, and lack of knowledge, i.e. people like dunces and jesters, and it was a bit of a romp, you know, where there was just loads of people involved, and one minute you're here and the next minute you're there, very much just images put together to try and make it fun more than anything.